Hey everybody, welcome to an episode of The Copy Court. We are streaming live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So happy for you guys to join us here. As always, I am your host, Terry Schilling, and with me,
Dan Marzullo.
Dan Marzullo. There's always a little pause with Dan. He likes to wait. He likes to set up, right? He likes to pause there.
Nah, man, it's the glitching on Zoom. It's not me.
Yeah, there's always just a little bit of lag time when we stream live, a little bit. But everybody, we're really happy we got a special episode for you. As you heard, we're streaming live, but we're also going to have the audio podcast for everybody. But we are excited to bring on, again, a special guest, a marketing director at the Predictive Index, also a freelance content writer, content strategist, content extraordinaire, and we have a fun topic with you guys today. But let's bring on Erin Balsa to the show, live from Boston. Hi, Erin.
Live from Boston, suburbs, not the city. I'm not cool enough to live in the city anymore. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for coming on, Erin. Appreciate
so much
it.
for joining us. Yeah, we're excited because we're going to be talking about how to launch a successful writing career. And we wanted to bring you on, and we thought guests who listen and watch will really get a lot of insight because you have experience working with organizations on building teams, but then you also have almost a decade of experience building a content marketing company yourself and being a freelancer and hiring writers to help out. So we thought that we could dive into some topics to help other freelancers, guys, whether they're starting out, whether they have a full-time job and looking to build it. Just get some advice on how to find more paid work and just some common questions that we get. And then I'll take a breath here because I feel like that was such a long intro to the show.
Sounds great. Getting into freelancing is not easy, especially if you don't have the advantage of having worked in-house for a while to develop some connections and some skills, and you're just out there on your own trying to figure it out. So definitely happy to help in any way that I can.
Yeah, and that's a good segue. We'll start with this question then for our conversation, because this gets asked a lot, that Dan and I have seen. It's like, what if I don't have a portfolio? I want to get hired and, put myself out there, but I don't have a lot of work. What would your advice be there?
Create your own destiny. So a lot of people don't know this about me, but this is my second career. I'm old. I had a whole decade of work experience working in education. And then I decided when I was 30 to start a blog, and I created my own work samples. I came home from my 9 to 5 every night and I wrote just about my life, whatever I had to say. And when I saw a job that I wanted, I sent the executive editor a link to my blog, and the rest was history. So not having your own samples should not be a stumbling block. Create your own destiny, whether that means creating a blog, writing on Medium, volunteering. I hate saying work for free, but sometimes you gotta spend some time to invest in your business. And I think that the more you can think of your freelancing as a business, you're not like, oh, I'm just a freelance writer. No, you're a freelance business owner. And the more you can invest in your business and your own professional development, the better off you'll be.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's what me and Terry say a lot too is, create those samples, right? But I love how you said, create your own destiny, right? Don't let that be a roadblock.
Exactly.
Yeah, it sounds a little bit more, a little bit more aspirational there. And I just like a lot of people do just get stuck on like, what can I do? Like, where do I start a blog? But like in the guest posting thing, like we've talked about that, Dan, is just like, look, when it comes to like find some publications, find to get your name out there. That way you can start making connections and start sharing some examples as well.
Yeah, kind of an easy way to share a link that's not to your own piece all the time on your own site if you need to, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, and I would argue that good writing is good writing. Even though if it is your own website, if it's really good and captivating, that opens doors. I have done some conferences with other editors talking about what they look for when hiring freelance writers. And I have heard some people say, I want to see published samples on other sites. So some people do feel that way. I don't, especially if I'm hiring an entry-level writer, which I did for 3.5 years. I only hired really entry-level writers. I worked at an agency. I actually just look for unedited samples above and beyond all else, because as someone who's been an editor for 10 years, I know how heavily sometimes editors have to edit freelance work. So just because you have this beautiful polished sample doesn't mean that that's the way the copy looked when the editor got it from the writer. So to me, I put more weight in unedited copy. So seeing something on your blog or your website or your LinkedIn About section, to me, that speaks volumes as compared to a published sample. That's just me. I know not everybody thinks the same.
Oh, that's awesome. And I think, because I wonder that a lot of times when I'm reading through samples of writers, it's like, wow, this is awesome. How much of this was, how many people collaborated on this? Or sometimes if you see something really polished and then you get a first draft and it looks nothing like that. I've had that experience before. And then, wow, okay, there was clearly something else in this process than just that writer.
Right. Yeah. People sometimes get pissed at me when I talk on LinkedIn about when you apply for a full-time writing role, if you don't have a ton of experience, you don't have a personal brand, people don't know you, you're just a name in a pile. I always say, write a cover letter. And people get really angry and they say, why should I jump through hoops? Like, why should I waste my time? You should look through my portfolio. And I know that this person has never hired writers, especially not at scale, because if they had, they would understand. So from my perspective, hope I'm not jumping ahead or anything, but
we'll keep this candid here. It's all good.
Imagine I'm advertising a role, whether it's an in-house role or a freelance role. I don't say you need to send a cover letter for a freelance role. I'm talking about like in-house roles, for example. And I'm in the ATS and I'm looking through 150 applications. And every time I need to look at a portfolio, I need to click out of the ATS. I need to orientate myself on a writer's website. I need to click all these different links. I don't know how many of those samples have been heavily edited. It's just kind of a waste of time. And if I have a quick cover letter, I can instantly, right in the ATS, say, yes, this is worth my time to look at this portfolio. No, it's definitely not worth my time because they can't string together 2 sentences. And I can be much quicker and more efficient. And if you write a cover letter, it really helps you float to the top of the pile. I notice you. In terms of freelance hiring, if I'm hiring someone for a freelance role and they're just like, hey, I want to write for you. Here is my portfolio. That's almost a no for me too. Because if you can't even capture my attention in a paragraph in an email, I'm sure you're not going to have the skills to capture my reader's attention in a blog post or whatever it is that you want to write for us.
Oh man. Yeah. That really good advice there. And we'll get to the next question, but just want to chime in here. People who are watching live, whether it's on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube, feel free to say hi. And any topics that we cover and want to chime in, leave some comments. Be the cool person and leave the first one and ask your first question. We'll put it on the screen here. And for everybody watching and listening, we'll keep the conversation going. So we're excited to say hi and see what questions you guys have. But Dan, you can go ahead and start the next chat here with the question.
Yeah, sounds great. All right, Erin. So the next one we had for you is, what's your advice for improving your chances for getting a contract role with a B2B company in particular?
So contract role, so ongoing work, not just a one-off.
Yeah, like ongoing freelance work.
So that's every freelancer's dream. And sometimes that's not going to happen overnight. So if you're just starting off, it's going to be probably tough to lock down some big contract. If you don't have testimonials, if you don't have referrals, it can be really hard. So I wouldn't say, the first thing is don't get down on yourself if you can't lock down some big contract, because you have to kind of take baby steps. And I think that a lot of freelancers that start off, they have these big dreams and people sell a vision a lot of times, like, oh, how to become a six-figure freelancer in 6 months. That could be unrealistic. I don't think many people start on day one and are earning $100,000 after 6 months. No. I think it's all about taking small steps. Have you heard of SMART goals? They're attainable, they're realistic, and that's what's going to keep you motivated. So maybe you're not necessarily looking to land some big contract. Maybe for you, if you haven't landed a big project yet, maybe it's okay. I want to land a package, and maybe a package is 10 blog posts. It's different than just one-off. I'm doing a blog, I'm doing a case study. You're just starting small. Can I sell a package of 10 blog posts? And once you start getting those under your belt, the best way to keep going up and up the ladder in terms of contract size and contract value, deal size, is referrals and testimonials. So I would say the more you can be getting people to refer you to their other colleagues who might need a writer, and the more you can get people to say nice things about you publicly, the better. And then it becomes a lot easier to land these long contracts at a higher price point. But that's going to take time.
Love it.
It's really all about your reputation.
Yeah. No, I love that you mentioned SMART goals and just kind of building to it. And, you know, it's easy for us to get attracted to like the Facebook ads, the LinkedIn ads that like say, sign up for this course or just do this, like to make 6 figures within months. And it's just like, it's, you know, it's not as easy as that, that sounds. So definitely
I think a lot about the multi-level marketing schemes where you have like the top 1% making insane money. Then you have maybe like 3% making really good money and the rest are just struggling. And I feel like whenever you see something that you think, wow, that's too good to be true, it probably is. And be suspicious. I'd say that, you know, every course, every investment should come with a disclaimer. This is not for you if you don't meet these criteria. And a lot of times they don't. And that's problematic for me.
Right. That's a good point.
Yeah. I have to go on to this, and just like when applying jobs as a freelance writer, you know, we all, you know, are on LinkedIn, you know, we're all active there. We get a lot of DMs, a lot of cold pitches, and there's a lot of content out there about cold emails. But Erin, from your experience, both on, you know, trying to get hired and hiring people, what's your best advice for sending a successful cold email or DM to a prospect?
Personalization and proof. So the 2 P's, personalization and proof. I get a lot of emails from writers who want to write for me. And a lot of, first of all, some of them are so bad I can't even tell what they're trying to offer, because it's just like, what are you talking about? I don't recognize half of these words. And at the end, it's like, and if you want to have me write for you, like, please contact me.
Yeah.
That's bad. For obvious reasons. I hate to have to say it, but that's bad. Don't just like talk about things that aren't relevant to me. Know my audience, know my industry, know what kind of content we produce. So like, don't just spam email people just because you see that they're a managing editor or a marketing director. Like, that's a waste of your time. Yeah. Be strategic. Spend some time up front researching companies that are a good fit for you and your interests and your skill set. And then from there, have a personalized pitch. So let them know that you know something about them, you know something about their audience, you know something about the content they've created in the past. That's just kind of like bare bones. If you want to really stand out from the crowd, make an observation about something they might do to improve their current results. Like, hey, I noticed a missed opportunity in this blog post. Do you know if you could add this link, or you could add this topic, or maybe you want to cover this angle? I think that's a really easy way to stand out. I've had some people, you know, find broken links on the site. So we crawl our site regularly, but sometimes a link, an external link gets, you know, taken down and we have a error on our website, and somebody will be like, hey, I noticed that you have this broken link. Would you like to replace it with this link to this blog that we just wrote? Would you like to, you know, let us write a guest post for you? And I'm more likely, honestly, to say yes, like, or at least to explore that person and their company to see if they're a good fit for writing a guest post.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the proof is a big one, you know, for me. Is like, I get, you know, people messaging me about like wanting to like write for any projects that I may have, but then they don't give any like portfolio examples as well. Like, they may have gotten the first part right of being personalized and saying like, oh, I saw, you know, the copy corner the other day. But then like, I just like want to see then of just like, you know, what work have you done? Do you have any type of examples? But Dan, I know like, obviously you hire a lot of writers too. Like, what do you look for too when getting a message? I'm sure you get a lot of LinkedIn DMs too.
Yeah, not as many with the new LinkedIn limits, but they still come through, you know, for sure. Yeah, you know, I just look, I look at a lot of things. I mean, I think taking the initiative is huge, right? That in the, from step one is great, but kind of like Erin said, offering a solution, like coming to the table with, here's how, working with me is going to improve whatever you're doing. So if they can kind of pinpoint something that we're not doing very well or that we need help with, and I can just say, oh yeah, like this is a problem we face. That's kind of a big first step to grab the attention there.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that proof yet, right? So if you're new, you don't have testimonials, you don't have metrics to show, traffic growth, you don't have that yet.
Yeah.
Maybe you find some other way to show proof. Like maybe, you can work your personal network. Do any of your friends have parents who own a small local business? Could you write a blog post for them in exchange for some sort of testimonial? It's really, like I said, about creating your destiny, making it happen. Don't just sit there and keep spamming the same generic email and then complaining because you can't get work. Just sit back, be strategic, try to really evaluate your efforts thus far as if you were a hiring editor. Would they hire you? Like, be realistic. Like, wow, is this email, is it really good or not? Like, can you understand maybe why you're not getting any responses? Yeah,
no, for sure. And guys, we're getting some comments here from people tuning in on LinkedIn. Just to go back a little bit, we have someone from LinkedIn. This is the first time attending your live stream. Loving it so far. Thank you. We always love when people love what we do. We like to, of course. They especially love the advice about the benefits of professionally unedited blog. I got some freelance work from my blog, so I can vouch for this. Really cool that that's worked for you. Bukola Timothy watching. Thanks for tuning in. Absolutely. Giving value up front. Back to what you were saying there, Erin, about the LinkedIn emails and DMs. But then we got a question from Alvina Khalid. Great advice, Erin. What's the number one platform to get clients, according to your experience?
LinkedIn, for sure, especially if you're B2B. All the freelancing I do is B2B. I have a full-time job, but I always have more than enough inbound interest just from posting. On LinkedIn, I post 4 to 5 days a week. Nothing crazy, super light lift, and I have more than enough inbound interest just from doing that. So I would say it's a huge opportunity. And, they always say the earlier you get on, the better chance of success you have. I don't think it's too late. I think there's still plenty of time for people to get on LinkedIn. I hear a lot of people have success with Twitter. It's not my thing. I hate it. I've always just been anti-Twitter for some reason. That said, I'm going to explore it in 2022. I'm going to give it another shake and see how we do. Yeah. But try it. I don't know. Honestly, you got to find whatever platform works for you, because enjoying what you're doing is half the battle. If it feels like work and it makes you uncomfortable and you dread it and hate it, you're not going to stick with it. And honestly, more than anything, sticking with it and being consistent is the key. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. Go on a platform that it feels genuine to you when you're putting out content and doesn't feel like you're trying so hard. And I know that's easy advice, but just start with LinkedIn, start with some knowledge that start, tagging some of your friends. If you like what they're doing, just getting started obviously is the hardest part. But yeah, LinkedIn, definitely a valuable platform, to start to getting some clients. For sure.
And I just want to, would love to kind of have a conversation on this with everybody here of, Erin, what's your advice for freelance writers? Should they be creating content online? How important is that for them to be active on a platform like LinkedIn or on Twitter or even on Facebook and Instagram?
Okay. So I think, again, think of yourself as a freelance business owner. How does any business get clients? Typically, it's some combination of owned, paid, and earned media. So if you're not going to pay and place ads, you have to be getting some sort of attention through either inbound marketing, inbound leads, or outbounds. So you need to either be creating demand online, creating SEO blogs to drive traffic, which is really hard to compete with the big companies who are going to be going after the same terms as you. So that might not be a good option. or you need to be cold DMing people, building your network, finding some way to get known. And if you don't do that, your only other option is to go to the job boards and accept these freelance gigs that pay like 2 cents a word. And if you're ever going to survive as a freelancer on 2 cents a word gigs, you have to be lightning fast, which I am not. I have never been a super fast writer. I have no desire to be. So for me, that was not the path. It's nothing wrong with it. There's different paths for different people. If that's your path, that's cool. Just make sure that you can be really fast. And if that's not your path, if you're like me and you don't want to be fast or just can't be fast, then your only other method is either generating inbound demand by being active online, creating content online to show that you know your stuff, or by reaching out, doing cold outreach, finding clients that way.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. Anything to add there, Terry?
Well, just like with creating content, we've talked about it a lot, Dan. It's how we've got connected because we saw each other's stuff. And it's just like, we probably didn't know each other's background of like what type of clients that we worked with from that perspective. Right. But like, we built some authority by posting, and whether that's like sharing like an ad that you saw, seeing something funny on like a website and just kind of breaking that down, or like why you think it's effective. Like that's just engaging content too, where you can ask other people to chime in as well. But it's also giving potential clients like kind of like a thought process into your brain and how you're thinking. Just find a way to come up with a consistent, content strategy. It's like, Dan, I know you put out a lot of videos in the past, about things like that. And it's obviously got my attention and we connected, but I'm sure it's also led to some work for you as well.
Right. Yeah. I'm always surprised that, people in our industry, there's still so many in my network that aren't publishing and putting stuff out there. And then you're just missing that shot to be in other people's faces and stay on their radar. Cause we talk about this all the time, Terry. We'll connect with a lead or a prospect, whatever. And they're like, we don't really need anything right now. But then they see our stuff every month and they reach back out to us in 6 months, say, Dan, I'm finally ready. We need help with this, and then it's because you were always posting and they always saw you. And that's just a missed opportunity for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Just the other day, I got an email from someone I've never engaged with who was like, hey, I'm a CEO of this company. I've been following you online for 9 months. I'd love to engage with you. Can we hop on a call? So they might not comment on your post. They might not like your post, but they're watching you. Post online. They're your silent supporters and they can turn into clients.
Yeah. Right. No, that's a good point to mention, because I think if people don't engage with it, a lot of times we just think, oh, nobody saw it. But it's surprising how many people do see that. They just don't like or comment or whatever on that post.
Yeah, when they're ready,
people never will.
Right.
Yeah, when they're ready and like you're staying consistent, it's like they'll reach out to you when they're ready because you were like top of mind, tip of tongue, the entire time for posting content. Yeah.
There's a thing called inbound marketing and it actually works. Go figure.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's the best. It really is.
It's funny you say that too, because I feel like sometimes those requests, the messages that come in, I've had several occasions where people joke about that. They're like, wow, this inbound marketing thing really works. Like I needed a content guy and I thought of you because I always see your stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all about being top of mind all the time. And I was pretty fortunate. I worked for 3.5 years managing content teams at an agency. So a lot of the people that I used to manage or work with have gone off to manage content at other companies. And wouldn't you know, they reach out to me and say, hey, you're always in my feed every day. Whenever I think of content marketing, you're the first person I think of. Well, yeah, that's intentional, right? So imagine now if I didn't post and I haven't worked with them in over 3 years, they might not think of me as someone that they want to bring on for a project or interview for a podcast or whatever it is. So it really does make a difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. Awesome. Well, yeah. And we got some questions coming in and we're going to get to those guys. But we want to shift the conversation here. So Dan, go ahead and with the next question.
Yeah, sure. So the next thing that, people talk about all the time is pricing strategy, right? What's your advice for kind of pricing those services as a freelancer without kind of second guessing yourself? And what do you tell people in that realm?
So I have a lot of thoughts here when it comes to pricing and packaging, but I will try to keep it basic. When you're just starting off, you're not going to be able to you're not going to be able to compete with people who have been in the industry for 10 years, just because, to be blunt, you offer less value than they do because you don't know as much yet about marketing strategy and how to not only execute and be a tactical service provider, but to be also offering strategic recommendations. So I talk a lot about this on LinkedIn too. What does it mean to be strategic versus tactical? A tactical content writer will say, okay, yes, you gave me this brief. I'm going to write it. It's going to be great. A strategic content writer is going to question everything and say, oh, I noticed that you're asking me to target this keyword. However, did you notice that blah, 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 this is a better opportunity, or this isn't the right keyword, or this has, an unrealistic keyword difficulty score. You're not going to be able to rank for this. That's a very simplistic example of strategic versus tactical, but you kind of get my drift. So I would say it's good to know, first of all, what different people in the industry are charging, right? So you want to know what people who are just starting out are charging. You want to know what people who have been at this for 10, 20 years are charging. And you don't want to try to compete on the highest end of the market if you're not providing that level of value. You want to be realistic. That said, always ask for a number that makes you slightly uncomfortable, and always be the one to set the price. So I'll dive a little bit into that. So you're not going to start asking for $200 an hour because you've only been freelancing for 6 months or a year. It's probably not going to happen. However, you also don't want to be asking for $20 an hour because that's what all your friends in your entry-level group are asking, or they're writing for 2 cents a word. Definitely ask for a number that makes you uncomfortable. And for you, that might be 10 cents a word might make you a little uncomfortable because none of your friends are making that. Or maybe $50 an hour makes you a little uncomfortable. Cool, ask for that. And you always want to be the one to set the price. It's called dropping the anchor. And whoever drops the anchor first in a negotiation has the advantage because you're always starting there. Now, if you say, oh, I don't know, how much do you want to charge? How much do you want to pay? And they say, oh, $20 for this blog post. You're never going to get them up to $150. But if you start with $150, you might meet in the middle around $100.
Yeah. No, I love all that. And I love how you phrased everything too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's super good. Love it.
Yeah, just
and I would say that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead, Erin.
I was going to say, when you do look at people and what they're charging, know that it takes time. Even for me, it was baby steps. I think my first freelance blog was $50 or something, and for a long time, I was making $150 for a lot of the work I was doing. Yeah. And that's not dollars an hour. That's for a content piece. So it's going to take time, set goals. I'd say raise your rates every year. And even with existing clients, because every time you're writing for a fee that makes you oh, I kind of wish I was making more money, raise your rates. And if that client doesn't want to keep working with you, you're free to go find another client that is willing to pay you at your new rate. And you should always be trying to level up once a year or more, depending on, again, how much value you offer.
Yeah. And if you've been working for a client for a year, clearly they enjoy working with you and, you're bringing them value. I think it's just fair to expect that they can come up in price if they want to continue that relationship because they've been used to working with you. And I just love charge a price that makes you uncomfortable. I mean, I'm sure I'll speak for myself, which is even doing that, now it's sending a proposal. It's just oh my gosh, did I ask for, is this too much for them? Will they get a little sticker shock? Even though I try to go in as much as I can, knowing what their budget is. And I try to set those expectations on my website too. But it's still always just I know what I'm worth and what I in my process. And it's just kind of man, hopefully they get it. But it's always a second guessing kind of game. It's just you get more confident. You get more confident with it as time goes on.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Terry. And I think too, we talk about sometimes it's once you've got several clients under your belt and it's not if I don't land this client, I don't eat thing. It's less stressful if they do say no because you already have your client base, right?
Yeah.
100%. Once you get into that where you can turn down work, if you can, I advise to do that, because if you're like, oh, I could turn this down, but I do want the money. And then guess what? The next day when someone better comes along,
Yeah.
you're not going to be able to do it because you signed a contract with the last person
Yeah,
at a rate
absolutely.
you don't love.
Right.
Right. We got a good question from Skylar, who's watching on LinkedIn. On top, just to keep this on the topic, how do you draw a line between what content you offer for free and what content you charge for?
If you have a portfolio or some sort of samples that you can use to land work, you shouldn't be doing anything for free, because people out there take advantage. There's a lot of predatory companies, and they take advantage. So I would say I would never offer any content for free unless I needed a few samples just to get my portfolio going.
Yeah. There you go. Straight to the point. Great advice. We have another question. We got a few of them coming here, guys. From Cole Fortman. Go back. Any tips when you have two relatively big prospects and don't know if you can handle both at once? That's a good question, Cole. I feel like a lot of us will get like big projects and we get a little worried, like, how are we going to navigate this? So yeah, definitely interested to see what you have to say here, Erin.
I would say that until the contract is inked, you don't have a client. So a lot of times you start to get in that mode, like, oh no, I have two big deals. Like, what should I do? I would say like you don't have anything until the contract is signed. So pursue them both with zeal, as if you only have one big prospect. And then if it finally comes down to it, and I would also tell them like, oh yes, I'm negotiating with one other company. So whoever signs first is going to be able to get this contract. Always make yourself look busy. Even if you're not super busy, I would say like, oh, I only have 10 hours left this month. So I'm talking to you and one other company. So whoever ends up signing first is, going to get on my schedule first. If you're not ready, and you always give them an out. So never seem desperate. So you're always going to say, whoever signs first, that's great. The next client will get to go on my schedule in February. And if you're not ready to sign, that's great. No worries at all. No pressure. You can always reach out down the road. And usually giving them that out draws them like a moth to a flame. And I, compare it to back when if you're still dating, I'm not, but I remember those days. And the more somebody chases you, the more you're like, get away from me. And it's always like the person who plays hard to get is the one that you're going to run after. And it's the same with business a lot of times. So if you can always give them an out, let them know, hey, I have another person who's about to sign too. If you want to sign, you can, lock down my time as soon as I get this contract signed. If not, no worries. Maybe we can work together next year. No big deal. And I would say that's going to help you get that contract signed. That said, what if they both sign on the same day and you're like, oh shit, now I have two big prospects. Okay, so what I would do is I would get that first contract signed and I would immediately reach out to the second person and say, okay, this first contract is signed. Now I have two options for you. If you still want to sign, I can start you on February 1st. Yeah. Or I have a trusted colleague of mine who I'm happy to work with. I can outsource the work. I'll edit it. I'll be responsible for quality, blah, blah, blah. That way you can give your friends some money and you can also be still taking some money away from the opportunity. And that's something that I do. If I can't take on work, but it's going to be a good gig, a lot of times I'll ask the client first, I can't take this on right now, but are you okay if I outsource to a trusted colleague? You'll work with me. I'll be your point of communication. I'll edit everything, but my colleague will be doing the writing. And 9 times out of 10, they say yes. Yeah. They don't want to go through searching again. I do that a lot. I'm doing that more too. If I feel like it's a good client and like, I feel that, if they really want to work with me, like, and also you're helping out like other freelancers, like people that you trust who may be looking for work too. And like, what I've started doing too is like in my proposals is I put like a proposal expiration date. That way it just gives it more time sensitive, kind of touch on what you had there, Erin, just to kind of like speed it up, to like let them know, like, I do have other clients that I'm reaching out for them that I'm working with now, to fit within the schedule. We need to, sign this by XYZ date. And I'll just add too, Cole, like if these are two contracts
like if you feel comfortable that you can handle them and the money is like what you need to kind of live, to pay your bill. But like, I feel just it's those expectations though within yourself and then with the client too, and give milestones and timelines that they'll agree to that like obviously won't overwhelm you, as well. But if you feel that like, these are two really big projects and like, even if you time it out and can't do it, try the approaches that Erin mentioned as well. But yeah, Dan, anything to add there too?
Yeah, I mean, just to echo what you guys said, I think it just comes down to you got to figure out what kind of business you want to build, right? Do you want to have more clients and work with more writers and more people, manage them to bring in more revenue? Or do you want to stay a one-man shop and only fill yourself to capacity and have that wait list built out, right? So once you know where you want your business to go, it's easier to make those decisions too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, Cole, thank you so much for your question. And guys, we just want to backtrack too, because Skylar chimed in the stream based on her question of how do you draw the line between what content you offer for free and what you charge for. She was elaborating is free and what you share on social media, your personal blog. But I'm assuming she's then like going off of like, when do I start charging for like a course or for like any type of products that I offer? Because I think that's just still a great question too about freelance writers. Can really grow their business, and have a successful career from not just doing client work. Like when do you know it's time where you feel that you can, charge for, a course or for like, hey, get my 50 best subject lines for $10.
Got it. Okay. I read that question as in guest blogging for free to build your portfolio versus charging clients. Yeah. But I think
we're all there too.
Yeah, I think now we're talking about gating an ebook on your website to get leads versus potentially charging for that ebook and trying to make some money off of it. Yeah. Is that accurate, Skylar?
Yeah, I think so. We'll see if she chimes in. Besides that, but I think that's the avenue she's going, and I still think it's like a great topic too. To like have those passive income streams as well.
Hell yeah. I'm super big on passive income. Like I already shared one way. It's not truly passive income outsourcing, but it's definitely getting the most out of the hours in the day. Skylar said yes. Second method of passive income is to productize your offerings, right? So that you're making money when you sleep. Courses are good. Selling a guide is good. Any of that is good. When is it time to do it? Anytime. There's always a good time. But I would say that there's a few good secrets to success. So you want to know, number one, if there are people out there who are interested in this product that you want to sell. So for example, on September 7th, I released a course. It was my first course. And back in the spring, I was like, hey, I'm thinking about, creating this course. And I didn't even know what it was going to be called at the time. I was calling it Here We Grow Yo. I'm like, who's interested in this course? And I got people to actually give me their email and they didn't even know what it was. I didn't know what it was yet. I just wanted to know if people would buy a course from me were I to launch one. So I was busy. I, waited a while. Finally, the time was right. I built my course page. I decided what I wanted it to be on. And I was able to pre-sell 25 courses before the course even launched, which is pretty awesome. So I would say, come up with some rough idea, put your feelers out there, see if there's people that are even willing to pay to learn from you. See if you have an audience who views you as someone they would want to learn from first. You could also try to see what they are willing to pay for something. You could do some informal interviews with people in your target market. Be like, hey, can I hop on a quick call with you? Here, I'm thinking of launching this guide, this course, whatever. First, would you be interested in that? And number two, how much would you pay for that? And just kind of try to get a sense of how to price your course. And of course, depending on who the audience is going to determine your price as well. So if you're coming up with some sort of content piece to teach brand new writers, they might not have a lot of disposable income. You're probably not going to be able to sell a $300 course. The course that I wrote is for content marketers who want an advanced content marketing course. So for me, coming in at $150 per course was a no-brainer. And it's pretty awesome because I'll wake up in the morning, I'll be like, oh, I sold another course while I was sleeping. Cool. It's like $150 in my pocket. And that's something that can eventually grow. It's really limitless because as more and more people over time become content marketers and want to level up their skills, they could discover me. So I would say that's a really smart way to branch out so that you're not always trading your time for money. And there's really no wrong time. It's just doing the homework to see if there's a market for what you want to sell.
Yeah, I love that. And I'll piggyback by just saying, like, there's a lot of the platforms give you, a great tool to do this through polls, right? Like I saw a poll on LinkedIn of just how, like, if I charged, or like if I was to do this for an hour, like to talk about XYZ for an hour, how much would you pay for it? And she gave like pricing differences for it. And I just, like, at the end of the day, it's like, hey, you're just doing some market research now. Like if somebody's like, yeah, I'll pay $80 for that. It's like, okay, cool. Maybe I'll charge like 90, right? Just like, if that's like kind of the basis of it. But getting those feelers out is, a smart approach. And Dan and I have like a couple webinars, and we've did that to like our email list and be like, who would be interested in this, to get a gauge. And and I just love, there's never like a bad time. Just do your homework.
Yeah, I think it's important not to skip that step, because I think a lot of people just assume, oh, I'm going to teach a course on this because I think that's what people want, or I think they'll pay this much. And then you launch it to crickets because you never asked, and you realize, oh, I actually didn't care about that at all. They wanted A, B, or C, Yeah.
Yeah. And Erin, I love your advice too, just about like the audience. And it sounds so simple, but sometimes we can get like so ahead of ourselves. We're like, oh, this will be great for any freelance writer to do this. And like Dan, from like our experience doing like the webinar and like selling like the template bundle, it's just like kind of like gauging. It's like, we're kind of like promoting this to freelancers, but some people may just be starting out, and like they might not have the, the budget to like pay for something this and get all the templates. And like we had like some messages about that, like, how else can you help me? And so just having that gauge and just, being mindful of that, is important with pricing. And then even like the content that you're creating, like you put all this time up and you're trying to sell it for $100 to beginner freelancers and only 2 people buy it. It's kind of a, it's tough ROI at the end of the day. No, but yeah, we got, well, guys, we had a great conversation today. We'll wrap it up. We got another follow-up question from, Alvina here that I think is just kind of a good, fun way to end this conversation that we had about, launching a success writing career. I think we covered a lot of great topics and a lot of great insight here. But Alvina goes back and says, what do you do before writing down the first word? Because we all have different ways of researching and writing content. So like, well, I'll have, we'll all answer this, but Erin, we'll start with you. What do you do before writing down the first word?
Talk to people at the company. I've, been doing this for a while. I've been part of lots of different writing groups on Facebook and Slack and LinkedIn and everywhere. And there is a lot of freelance writers who are scared to hop on phone calls. And I think that could limit your income potential, and it could make it more difficult for you to do a really kick-ass job creating content. So the first thing I do is I talk to my client, and not only whoever hired me, but other people in the org to really understand the product and the positioning and the category and the go-to-market strategy and everything I need to know to actually create content that's going to work. Because if all you're doing is responding to some job posting and you're getting a brief and you're like researching means just like looking at the website for like 20 minutes, you're probably not going to be able to create content that's going to actually gain trust and attention and, most importantly, action. Whether that means getting people to sign up for a freemium product trial or buy a t-shirt or request a demo. I think that you really have to do your legwork and talk to various people throughout the company. If you are able to get your hands on some of their documentation, depending on how closely or how long the relationship's going to be, they might be more willing to share more details about the company. If you're signing an NDA, I think that can really help to really spend time getting up to speed. And this might sound nuts, but if I'm in an engagement with a new client, I spend like the first at least 10 hours just absorbing information another 5 hours just talking to people on calls before I start writing.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like the same. Before I start writing down anything that I feel is going to be meaningful and that the client may look at, like, research is easily the best point, but I love how you kind of narrowed it down to like talking to people within the company, and like for me, it's like depending on the project, like if I'm doing like a rebrand or website copy and they have customers, I love offering them to send out a customer survey. Like I'll create like a Google form that we can send out and just getting like what works about, like, why did they come to you to buy this product? And just to get some, obviously some language from the customer. But that's a big one for me. Dan, what about you?
Yeah, similar to what you guys are saying. I say ask questions, right? Get to know whatever information they didn't provide in the brief. But my other answer to that would be drink some coffee first, because you can't write when you're tired and uninspired.
Yeah.
So
yeah, get in the right mind frame. What are those like habits, or what does that look like for you? Like go for a walk, have a glass of beer, have a coffee, tea.
drink it.
Yeah.
Definitely got to be in the zone to do writing.
Definitely got to be in the zone. All right.
And I would say if this, I'm sorry, I have just one quick thing to add.
Yeah.
If this is just a one-off, like you're having a trial blog post as, your first step, you're obviously not going to spend 15 hours talking to people and doing research. That's more for like a long-term engagement. I would say, I love what Terry said about sending a form, but you could even ask like, hey, do you have any voice of the customer research that you could send over? And any company worth their salt should have something. They should be interviewing their customers and having some sort of insights that they can send you. Maybe a call recording or two if they use a tool like Gong that they can send you. And I would at least start there, because you have to understand the reader to write something that's going to resonate.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. I mean, and then like also just talking to the client, like where are they within like the business? Like, do they have those type of materials? Have you done any like brand messaging research or any type of like tone of voice exercise? Like, right, to have that. So, and that's just something also that you can offer. And if you do that on a discovery call, that's stuff that you can add in your proposal and increase the price with as well. Mm-hmm. Just like narrowing that out, it just offers more value to the client as well. But one final question. We did this on the last podcast episode, because we're bringing some guests on to the show. We're trying to, expand this podcast, more. But we will get back to some of those like 10-minute bite-sized episodes, everyone, if that's what we're used to. But to Erin, why is copywriting important for your business?
Because, gosh, there's so many directions I could go. So every business needs content writing and copywriting. And I am of the mindset that they're two completely different skill sets. Some people will argue and disagree with me, because in the end, the reason we're creating content is to sell a product. But for content writing, it's a long game. You're trying to build trust over time.
Yeah.
And it works. Just today, one of our AEs on the sales team, she posted that the prospect she did a demo with today was like, oh my gosh, like I've been reading your content for 6 months. I've taken your courses. I read your ebooks. The content is completely like so well done, so well researched. It really built my trust for your company. And now I'm ready to buy the product. So it really does work. It's a long game, but it works if well executed.
Yeah.
However, copywriting is designed to get an immediate action. So I might not have that trust built up. So for example, I'm writing a landing page for an asset or a webinar or an event, and I'm going to promote it with paid social. Whoever this person is that comes across this ad in their feed, they've never heard of my company. They haven't built that trust, but I want them to be so moved that they fill out this form and come to my event or whatever it is I'm asking them to do. Mm-hmm. And that's a different skill set. That requires someone who understands consumer psychology and triggers, and it's a whole different skill set. And I need that because we don't always have time to play the long game. So any balanced content strategy is going to have one side looking to generate high intent leads, which at my business, those convert to an op at 34%. And the other side of the business, you're looking to get those quick wins, those low intent leads to supplement your high intent leads that you can hit your monthly SCO number. And that's sales qualified opportunities. So without copywriting, you're not going to get as many form fills, and you're not going to be able to meet your overall SCO number of those low intent leads that might only convert at 3%, but you can get a bucket full of them and you can hit your monthly goals and you can grow the company, which is what we're all here to do at the end of the day.
Yeah, man, amazing answer. I love how
you
guys,
very well said.
you chimed into our entire audience, both content writing and the copywriting side. Got to keep it on brand for the Copy Corner. But Erin, thank you so much. Love the answer. Love all the answers today. Everyone who is watching live with us today, thank you so much for your questions. We loved all of them. It's going to be great for all our podcast listeners too. So we appreciate it. And Erin, thank you so much for your time. Before we go, let everybody know where they can follow you across the internet.
Sure. So as you know, I hate Twitter, but I'm going to be trying to love Twitter in 2022. So find me for now on LinkedIn. I am the only Erin Balsa on LinkedIn, which is pretty awesome. Dumb luck, married a guy with a very uncommon last name. So follow me or connect with me on LinkedIn. And I can't miss the opportunity to plug my course. It's not for beginning content writers. So like I said, I'm going to give that disclaimer. This is a course for content marketers and content writers who are looking for an advanced content marketing course because they want to get closer to revenue. They want to add a high ticket item to their services menu, and they're ready to be more strategic. And the course is called The Research Report Playbook, Here We Grow Yo, because I had to honor that name that I put out there in the spring.
Yes. Excellent.
And you can find the course on Gumroad, or if you go to my LinkedIn, there is a clickable. You can click the course and you can check it out. And if you're someone who's looking to level up, it could be a good fit, or maybe not. That's okay too. I won't hold it against you.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, again, Erin, thank you so much. This was great. And everybody, thank you again for watching and listening to another episode of the Copy Corner. We will see you next time. Cheers.
Bye.